Ozma can be a very challenging fight and will likely be the most challenging you'll face all game. He has 3 separate health bars unless you chose the revenge ending, with a large variety of different attacks that can be hard to memorize. Chaos resistance and chaos consumables are also recommended for this fight due to the many chaos based attacks he does, particularly in phase 2 and phase 3. A big tip that helped me quite a lot with this fight is that a lot of his delayed attacks tend to do a flash just before they hit, giving you a timing window on when to dodge or brink guard attacks, so definitely look out for those throughout the fight. At the beginning of phase 1, Ozma usually stands there for a couple seconds, giving you an opening to be aggressive, and if you have any attacks that can stagger, I recommend opening with them here and exhausting your stamina bar into him for a good bunch of damage at the beginning of the fight. He has a pretty simple 2-hit combo early on in this fight that is a delayed upward swipe with his staff, followed by a delayed slash attack with his staff where he floats backwards before charging and swinging. These are easy enough to brink guard and get damage in afterwards. After he gets the wings on his back further into this fight, he'll start chaining 3 wing attacks after these 2 hits into a 5-hit combo with very strange timing, but you should do your best to brink guard these if you can. When he does these 3 wing attacks, the very last one where he spins around and attacks you that has a very long delay will stagger him if you can brink guard it, so focus on brink guarding this one above all of the others. Throughout the fight, he'll raise into the air and throw a purple javelin at you. This will do some chaos buildup even if brink guarded, but you should aim to do so anyway, and if you don't, it will be lodged into the ground, dealing damage if you step on it for a long time afterwards. Always press the attack after he throws javelins, as you can almost always attack afterwards if you're close enough, and note that the timing to brink guard javelins is almost always the same throughout this phase. He can sometimes throw 3 javelins and you can only brink guard 1, so there will be some javelins stuck in the ground regardless when he does this attack. Additionally, as phase 1 goes on, he'll begin charging this single javelin, so the brink guard timing will change, and at some point he'll do a plunging attack after charging it to full, with a massive delayed AoE that will occur even if you brink guard, so make sure you get out of it. He has an attack in this phase where he can raise up in the air and plunge his staff down in a delayed large AoE, and this is followed by a delayed explosion as well, so when you see this, run away and wait for the attack to end. This attack does flame buildup. You can also raise into the air and do a quick spin before firing out a very fast beam of fire. Dodge this quickly and attack afterwards. This attack also does flame buildup. He can also summon a fire AoE around him that you must dodge out of. He will then jump up and slam down to shoot the fire outward in a 360 degree AoE after a short delay, so you should prepare to dodge through this and attack immediately. Note that this also does flame buildup. Ozma can also do an ice trail that has an initial hit, but then also a delayed explosion. This does frost buildup, so try to avoid it, and attack if you can, as he usually is open for a window afterward. He can sometimes charge his hand purple and then jump backwards and fire a chaos trail at you. Wait just a second when you see this and then dodge to the side and attack after. He can also raise his hand into the air and charge it purple, which usually happens when you're right on top of him. When he does this, he'll do a delayed chaos explosion around him, so dodge away and avoid the damage. Sometimes he'll summon 5 chaos daggers over his head that will home onto you one by one. It's best to sprint or dodge to avoid these, and watch out because he often follows this with a burst attack that you'll want to counterattack for easy damage. As the fight goes on, at around 70% health, he'll raise into the air at some point with his staff floating in front of him. He will start pulling in flame and chaos before unleashing a devastating AoE around him and sprouting wings immediately afterwards. I usually just block this, but you can dodge it if your timing is good. For the timing on this attack, you can dodge just as the staff does a flash for the best timing. He always follows this with a diving staff attack and usually follows that with 3 winged attacks, so get ready to brink guard and then go on the offensive. Again, when he does this wing attack, the very last one where he does a 361 will stagger him if you brink guard, so focus on brink guarding that way. Note that he may do this attack again later in this phase, so learn to recognize it. He can also sometimes sidestep and then do a claw attack, followed by an upward slash with his staff, and then 2 winged attacks that are quite similar to the previous move. Be ready to brink guard and then attack. As his health gets very low, he'll twirl up into the air with a chaos AoE growing around him. Dodge out of the way so you are not hit by them, and then dodge the ensuing chaos wave by positioning either left or right of him, but don't stand in front of him. As soon as this wave goes by, then move in front of him to avoid the subsequent waves that will strike to his right and left. He'll summon Chaos Twisters immediately following this, and it's best to hang back and avoid them as they deal lots of damage, and wait for Ozma to come to you. He usually does a flying staff attack, so it's not uncommon to do this right away. He can chain this flying staff attack into a combo as well, where he'll upward swing with his staff and then hop up and do a staff swipe, followed by 2 wing slashes. Be ready to brink guard and attack afterwards. Depending on how the fight is going, sometimes he'll raise into the air and his staff will become a large twin blade. He will then charge at you with it after a long delay and then attack you again before raising into the air and firing chaos projectiles at you rapidly. Immediately following this, his staff will slowly lower to the ground while glowing white, and just before it touches the ground it will explode in an arena-wide AoE. You cannot block this attack and you must dodge to avoid damage. It's possible to avoid this attack altogether if you have good enough DPS in this phase, so as you get better and better you will see this attack less and less often. Once you've drained his first health bar, a cutscene will play and then you'll face him with entirely new moves. None of the Phase 1 moves will appear in Phase 2, so you'll have to memorize an entirely new set of attacks. Note that throughout this fight, some of his new moves will also stagger him if you Brink Guard them, and they have a purple slash effect on the screen that kind of lets you know that these are the ones to Brink Guard. He usually does a Scream and small AoE at the start of Phase 2, and if you're quick you can attack just after the Scream. He typically follows up with a 4-hit wing attack that begins with 2 alternating wing thrusts followed by a very quick wing swipe, and then a delayed wing swipe, and then a delayed burst attack after he floats to the side in the air for a second or two. Make sure to counterattack this for easy damage. Later on in the phase, he can vary the end of this, and instead of doing a burst attack, he can attack 2 more times with wing thrusts before doing a sliding attack that if you Brink Guard will leave him staggered. Or he'll do 2 ranged attacks before doing the same sliding attack. He has another wing attack combo as well, where he'll attack twice with his left wing back to back after a short initial delay, and this can be followed up by a delayed plunging attack with his wings and fists. He can do this attack as a standalone attack throughout the fight as well, and this is one of the attacks which if you block, makes him staggered, so be sure to Brink Guard this. Note that he can vary this and do a grab attack from his left side instead of the plunging attack, and you'll hear the audio cue when this happens, and you should be ready to dodge it if you see it. He has another combo where he'll attack with his left arm, then his right, then a slight delay in his left arm once again, and then a charged right arm attack. He can follow this up with a delayed chaos uppercut, or he can follow it with a delayed wing plunging attack. He can sometimes also glow a pulsing white color, and then he'll charge at you with his shoulder. He can do this charge attack 3 times in a row with less and less time in between each attack. It's best to Brink Guard these when you see them. However, sometimes he can vary it and do another attack after a charge, or sort of winds up with his fist and then shoots a projectile at you, so be ready to dodge or Brink Guard this. Sometimes he'll just do this same projectile attack and follow it with another attack that pulls you forward immediately afterward. Ozma will then wind up and do a charging attack at you, and if you Brink Guard this attack, he'll stagger and be open to other attacks. Make sure you don't Brink Guard too early, and note that in Phase 3, this charging attack at the end of this becomes a burst attack, so be ready to counterattack when you see it in that phase. Sometimes he'll wind up with a pink circle around him, and then he will leap into the air and plunge down with his fist with a delayed explosion afterward from a pink meteor. He will repeat this again with a slightly longer delay the second time, and then a third time with a very long delay, followed by 2 pink meteors, and then a very large, even more delayed explosion. The best way to combat these attacks is to Brink Guard them, since if you do, the delayed explosions from the meteors do not occur, and if you Brink Guard the last attack, he'll be staggered and vulnerable to your attacks. However, if you mess up the timing, be sure to dodge out of the delayed explosion. You can see the timing for the dodge because there's a small flash just before the AoE. He can leap into the air, sort of shoot his wings out, and then he'll charge at you 3 times, not unlike the shoulder charge attack, but the last attack is wicked fast, so be sure to Brink Guard quickly. He then summons a large chaos sword and does a delayed charging slash attack, followed by another delayed sword slash while he's floating in the air, and then does a delayed plunging attack with his sword that hits 3 times. This does massive chaos buildup if it hits you, so if you're not confident in Brink Guarding the 3 hits at the end, I advise just sprinting away from this attack and not risking the damage and chaos buildup. He can also charge his arm or both of his arms and then do a delayed laser attack at you. Learn the timing of this attack and dodge a second or so after you first see the trail, not exactly when you first see it. He can do this twice in a row, and when he does this version, he'll usually dodge before doing the laser trail. He can do an attack where he shoots slicing waves at you one after the other 4 times in a row before doing a slicing wave 360 degree AoE. These are easy enough to Brink Guard, and then you can dodge through the final AoE to get close and attack a little bit. He can also do another grab attack in this phase where he winds up with his fist glowing purple and then slides forward and grabs you after a delay. Don't dodge too early or you'll be grabbed. If this happens to you in Phase 3, he will punch Blade Phantom out of you. He has an attack in this phase where he can summon purple AoEs under you 5 times in a row. Sprint or dodge out of these and then try to avoid the twisters that are summoned from them once the attack concludes. This attack is rare, thankfully, but it can happen just before the next attack sometimes, making it harder to see the projectiles. When he hits about 50% HP or so, he'll do a delayed purple explosion around him and then fly high up into the air. A bunch of projectiles will form around him and then he'll fire them off at you. You want to pay particular attention to the ones with pink rings around them, of which there are usually 4. You want to avoid these ones, however you want to brink guard the rest, as these will be reflected back at him, not only dealing damage, but also dealing stamina damage. Overall, the pattern for this attack is to brink guard 4 times, dodge, brink guard 4 times, dodge, brink guard 4 times, except with a little more time in between, and then one last dodge for the other projectiles. Then brink guard his follow-up plunge attack and he'll be staggered and vulnerable to attacks. If you mistime this, he'll do a massive delayed explosion, so block or get out of there. From here, he'll have some new attacks you can do where he raises into the air and summons purple orbs that track you. He usually fires these 3 at a time twice, and then back-to-back larger versions. You can brink guard or dodge them easily. He typically follows this up with an alternate version of the very first combo with 3 wing attacks and then 3 more attacks instead of a burst attack in this phase. However, he can also follow it up with a winged plunge attack as well instead. He can also raise into the air and summon a large purple orb that looks similar, but then he throws it down and will create a vortex that pulls you in with a delayed explosion. You'll have to dodge away from it repeatedly to get out of its center of gravity while also avoiding Ozma's follow-up attacks, which are usually either laser attacks, the 3 jump attack in a row, or the charging shoulder attacks. He will typically raise high into the air a second time in this phase where he'll fire a very delayed projectile that will cause a massive AoE seconds after it hits the ground. It's best to dodge away and prepare for his incoming attack. His attacks will vary after this, but they will all be recognizable attacks from earlier in the fight. Try to get away from the projectile quickly enough that you can focus on Ozma and discern which attack he's doing and act appropriately. He also has a move when his health gets very low in this phase where he summons a purple stone that periodically pulses AoE damage. If you don't destroy this stone quickly enough, he'll do an unblockable AoE and will regain all his stamina. So burst this down as soon as you see it with your best skills. Phase 3 begins after you deplete a second health bar, but just note again that you won't have this phase if you picked Revenge during the final mission. He now has a purple health bar and will vary some of his attacks into more burst attacks, mainly after his wing attack combos, which is great since you need to do burst attacks to defeat him in this phase. This is generally an easier phase than Phase 2, mainly because of the amount of burst attacks he does, which are rather easy to read and counter. He typically starts this phase with 2 laser beam attacks back to back, a single beam, and then a double beam. Again, wait until a second after the beam appears to dodge, and don't dodge immediately when you see them. He can do teleport melee attacks in this phase that, besides the teleport, will look familiar from Phase 2, so you should be able to recognize these and act appropriately. Lastly, he will raise up in the air sometimes in this phase and do a similar attack from Phase 2, but will fire 6 projectiles at you, and then the delayed one with a large explosion. Dodge these and get away from the explosion and prepare for Ozma to attack, just like in the previous phase.
Khazan, why do you insist on fighting me? Don't you see? The real enemy is humanity. Ozma, look at how you've changed and what you've become. Do we not then have the right to destroy it? You stubbornly refuse to understand. I'm sorry. Ozma.